been the problem with the team. No real legitimate number 2 receiver. He had him now, and then he got COVID, right? And no one was there. So Drew Brees' average yards, per attempt were way down, even by his standards. He doesn't have like the most. He's not like a guy who's going to really throw the ball down the field as much as some of the stronger armed quarterbacks, although he has always had and still has the all-time elite accuracy, right? Like Drew Brees is incredibly accurate. If you haven't seen it on social media, they had, I think it was our own sports science stuff, right? Where Drew Brees is competing against an Olympic archer. And he is way more accurate. Hit the bullseye like 7 out of 10 times. The archer hit it like 3 out of 10 times. I'm not questioning that, Stephen A. And I'm not saying he's not elite anymore. I'm saying we don't know yet. We really don't know yet. We haven't had the sample size with this group of receivers to see if Brees still is not a good quarterback, an elite quarterback. In recent years, late in the season and in the playoffs, when many of us thought the Saints should be the favorite. Why? Because this young quarterback's untested, but the Saints have Drew Brees. We've seen Brees come up small in those moments. We've seen him underthrow guys or throw late or with you just seen his arm. It hasn't looked really strong, and you go, he's an older, smaller quarterback. Maybe he's wearing down. We have those questions. We still do. Stephen A., Drew Brees is clearly still an effective NFL quarterback. But when we're talking elite, when we're talking about Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, I can't right now put him there. And throughout his career, he was with those guys. He was with guys like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers. You always had to include Drew Brees' name. He has not shown this year yet that you must include his name in that group.
I think this is one of the most asinine things you've ever said, and I'll tell you why. Because when we talked about those great quarterbacks in the past, we'd always mention them before Drew Brees. And that, as a result, had people thinking, okay, he's elite, but. Well, what are we saying right now? He's elite, but. Because you brought up Patrick Mahomes, who you believe to be the greatest you've ever seen. You brought up Aaron Rodgers, who you believe to be top 2, top 3, the greatest you've ever seen. Excuse me. And then we mentioned Drew Brees. And that's a reason to sit up there and say, not great, hasn't proven it yet. Well, the man is over 40 years of age. He's been doing it for years. What the hell is he supposed to do? Be Mork, the old Robin Williams, God rest his soul, on Mork and Mindy, where you get younger as time goes on instead of getting older. Nice. What the hell is he supposed to do? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, your point is neutralized and nullified, rather, the moment you said he's crazy accurate. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks ever. Well, damn. That's what you're supposed to be. That is literally the number one ingredient to greatness at the quarterback position. Accuracy. Now, what we can do, because I got some of the numbers here, and I know you might not have the numbers in front of you, but I got some of the numbers here. I'm just talking about attempts. Max, if you remember from 2008 to 2016, when at least every other year he was throwing for over 5,000 yards or 4,600
leading the league in yards.
Yeah. Right. So if I'm looking at him, Max, here, look at these attempts. 2008, 635 attempts, 2010, 658, then 657, then 670, 650, 659, 627, 673 attempts in 2017. So we saw the volume, the amount of attempts he put forth, but we also never saw a precipitous drop-off in the accuracy. The difference over the last several years, and obviously because of age and you want to last a little bit longer, so credit to Sean Payton for knowing that he wanted to keep his quarterback around. Maybe I don't need to have him throwing the ball so damn much, especially when I got Alvin Kamara, okay? And before Mark Ingram left for Baltimore, he was in there in New Orleans with Alvin Kamara. So we got to think about those things. And over the last, 4 years, 536 attempts. Then 489 attempts. Then last year in 11 games, 378 attempts. Thus far this year is 285 attempts. The guy is on pace. The guy is on pace to throw 570 times. All I'm saying is, but if you look at the accuracy over the last 5 years, Max, 70% completion, 72,
last 4 years.
74, 74, 74. Yes. I mean, damn.
Well, no, you know what you're pointing
take
out?
Away from greatness when you're pointing to that level of accuracy that he's delivering on top of winning games. That's pointing out. You're pointing out, this happens in baseball to pitchers, the same thing. If they start out fastball, like 100-mile-an-hour fastball, they strike out a lot of guys. As their career moves on, if they want to stay elite,
They get better control. They're in the strike zone more, so their walk totals keep going down, but their home run allowed goes up because they're in the strike zone and they don't have the same stuff. Drew Brees, I see the same thing you do. He basically led the league in passing yards every single season, it seemed, for a long time with over 5,000.
Right.
Lead the lead. But, and his completion percentage was in the high 60s. Now he's leading the league in completion percentage every year, and the passing yards aren't nearly the same. He's evolving as a player, but is that still elite?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I'll tell you why. I'll use one of your analogies. You use baseball, right? You just use baseball. Okay, I'll throw a basketball analogy at you that both you and I have used. We watched MJ. Then we watched Kobe. They were not only great ball players, they had crazy athleticism. As age and attrition kicked in, they had to modify their game to some degree, become more perimeter oriented to maintain the level of success. We looked at things differently, but we didn't question their greatness. What we said was they had to sit up there and modify it, change it up a little bit, but they're still great. They're just not as athletic as they used to be. If you're telling me Drew Brees ain't the same dude with his velocity, I got you. But in terms of the results, if you look at the level of accuracy, and he's winning football games, and he's leading his team, and he's playing the quarterback position, you could tell me that Drew Brees might not be the same quarterback. I'm just saying, don't eradicate greatness from the category while you're talking about him, because he's great.
In fact, and I can give you examples of baseball pitchers. A couple of them have pitched for the Yankees. Ron Guidry, or later on David Wells, who got better and better in terms of terms of the control, fewer walks, fewer strikeouts, more home runs allowed, still elite. Not what they once were, maybe, but still elite. But this is the problem with Drew Brees. When you bring up Jordan and Kobe, that's true, they were still elite. Because Jordan and Kobe, in the moment of truth, could still put their team over the top with taking the fade away if they needed to, instead of just taking it hard to the hole. We haven't seen Drew Brees do that. I know football's different. Even the quarterback does not have as much sway on the outcome of the game as maybe a starting pitcher who's really dominant in baseball, or a perimeter player who you run the offense through in basketball. But the ball is still in their hands at the end of games. And Stephen A., we have seen in the playoffs time and again, Drew Brees look old and beaten up in the moment of truth. I'm not saying he's definitely not elite. I'm saying we have not seen this year him prove that yet.
Hold it. It's two things that's worth pointing out here, Max. Number one, not old, beaten up. There's a difference, because it doesn't have to be both. You could be beaten up. You can be very young and look old because you got your behind beat up. Okay, that's number one. Number two, your number one weapon, Michael Thomas, over the last 3 years, 104, 125, and last year, 149 receptions. His number one target, Max Kellerman. Michael Thomas has only played 2 games this year.
Yeah. I've been bringing this up forever. By the way, the Saints, at this moment, the Saints are my pick in the NFC. But that's different because I think Drew Brees. Because I think Drew Brees still has elite accuracy, but whether or not he's an elite quarterback remains to be seen as the year progresses. Stephen A., people didn't know if he was coming back this year, and part of it was because you saw the throws down the field; they didn't look the same.
Cool. Pause right there, Max. You just finished saying Drew Brees is a quarterback that has elite accuracy.
Yep.
How can you sit up there? I just want you to think about people listening to you. You're going to say that a quarterback has elite accuracy, but don't give him greatness.
Well, hold on. When you talk about elite, you're talking about the upper crust. Even if you want to say Drew Brees' name came after Peyton and Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, it was always there. If you're asking me to name the elite quarterbacks in the NFL right now, I'm telling you Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. I do not have Drew Brees in that group right now.
Do you have him top 5?
Arguably, I don't know. I need to see.